bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
I think we can officially call this a Football Friday since we got a lot of football to talk about here on Birds 365. Johnny Mack and Jody Mack here to hang with you for the next 2 hours. Two major things that we have to cover over the course of today's show. We got two good guests to help us over the next 2 hours. Are the Eagles schedule and the first chance to sit down and meet and hear from and judge the Eagles' two new coordinators on both offense and defense. John McMullen, I let you choose. Which would you prefer to talk about first? Meet the coordinators or meet the 2023 Bird schedule?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Jody. For me, it would be the coordinators, but I'm going to go schedule because I think people are obsessed with the schedule. And it's schedule day. A happy logistics day. I hope everybody had a happy logistics day, even though the Sixers tried to ruin it for you. But
didn't
we're locked in.
Didn't go as well at night as it did during the day. And I guess even the day depends on your optimism or pessimism with the Birds. The games started leaking out yesterday even the day before. And now we've got the full 17-game slate. Do you want to do it right off the bat? Go win-loss, win-loss? Right down the list. I'm going to fire it at you. Are you ready, Johnny Mack?
Sure. Let's do it.
Let me get out a pen to write down.
Homage to Mike Francesa. Can I go? That's a win.
You can do it any way you please. And some interesting quirks to the schedule that we'll also talk about. But first, we just got to go through it. W's and L's. Week 1 at New England, which was so disrespectful by the NFL to give.
There was somebody. I was waiting for the first disrespectful tweet.
That was you texted me ESP's tweet.
I was waiting for the first one, and
they were disrespected by having to open up on the road against New England.
It always makes me happy. The first disrespectful one.
Well, is it disrespect? We don't care whether it's disrespectful or not.
Come on.
Is it a win or a loss?
It's a win.
It is a win. Vikings week 2 Thursday night. Quick turnaround, Johnny Mack. That may be tough.
I know, easy win. In fact, if I'm Minnesota, I am pissed off because they got to open up and fill the Philadelphia home opener 2 years in a row, and they did not handle that well last year. They're not going to handle it well this year.
Add that to the fact that Kirk Cousins doesn't usually play well when the sun is down. So what do? They give him a Thursday night against the Eagles. Yeah, I can see why the Vikings might be a little perturbed about that schedule. That's disrespect right there. Week number 3 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On the road, Johnny Mack.
Easy win. That might be the worst team on the schedule for the Eagles. Probably Arizona later, but they're in the conversation.
I would take Jonathan Gannon's Cardinals as worse than the Bucs, but I am with you on a win. Week 4 at home to the Commanders. where they lost one of their 3 games, regular season games last year, was at home against Washington. His revenge had.
Yeah, well, you try to pound me on Brock Purdy. Our buddy Ed Kratz tries to do it with Sam Howell. I'm not buying it. Washington's going to be a bad football team. Last place, NFC East. Make it 4-0.
I would agree across the board. All right, week 5, you got to go cross country out to the Rams in L.A. Only 2 years removed from Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, at this point, I start looking for logical losses, scheduled losses, whatever you want to call them. And normally, this would be a scheduled loss, but the Rams are so bad. They tore it all down. They're paying for going all in to get their Super Bowl title. It's a tough trip, as you mentioned, but they're gonna out talent the Rams. So keep it going.
I would agree with that one. All right, week 6, I will be at this game. A 4:25. Oh, by the way, very few 1 o'clock games for you, Johnny Mac. 4:25 at the Jets. Is this the first loss of the season?
Yes, it is. There it is. The Eagles have never lost to Jody McDonald's Jets in the regular season. This is it. I'm convinced that the Jets don't get it done here, they will never beat the Eagles. It is for Jody knows, but for people that don't know, part of it's Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is the last piece, obviously. But they got a lot of talent, and they're very similar to Detroit in the fact that I talk about Detroit a lot. They've been bad for so long. They've been drafting at the top of the draft for so long. All of a sudden, you wake up and you look and you say, wow, there's Garrett Wilson. Wow, there's Sauce Gardner. Wow, there's Quentin Williams. They got some good players, and now they got a quarterback. Yeah, logical loss. They're not going to go 17-0. Sorry, people. First L, Sunday, October 15th versus Jody McDonald's New York Jets.
Yeah, I still have the Eagles undefeated. I do not think they will lose to the Jets. Next week, at home against the Dolphins.
Back on the winning track, the Dolphins, talented team, but they have some issues. I'm not in love with the head coach. We know Tua's concussion issues. They might have some hiccups. Tyreek Hill will probably beat them deep. But I think the Eagles have too much for the Dolphins.
Yeah, this is where I have the Eagles losing their first game of the season. I think the Dolphins come in here and get them in week number 7. So I got them 6-0 before they lose, but losing week 7. At the Commanders, week 8.
Yeah, I was talking about
Washington?
they're sweeping the Commanders. Maybe if Taylor Heineke was there plucking them to a win. I'm not buying Sam Howell. Who knows? By that point, it might be Jacoby Brissett. I'm just not in love with Washington, what they're doing. Ultimately, it'll be a positive step this season for the Commanders if they get it away from Daniel Snyder. But in the short term, they're going to have some issues. They sweep the Commanders this year.
Did not sweep the Commanders last year. They will sweep the Commanders this year. Week 9 is at home against the Dallas Cowboys. First Dallas matchup. Eagles a winner or a loser?
I got a home and home split, so they're going to win at home. Cowboys are a very good team. We talked to John Machota yesterday. Talent all over the place. They're in the conversation. I think the 3 clear best teams in the NFC are the Eagles, the Cowboys, the 49ers. I don't think they're going to sweep the Cowboys, but I got them winning home and home split.
All right, so that'll give us an answer on one coming up in just a couple. I think they'll win the home game against the Cowboys as well. Bye in week 10. Week 11 is the game that – come on, Mrs. Kelsey, you got to upgrade your sources. John
I
McMullen
told you, be careful
that
with that Donna Kelsey one. You wanted to confirm that. I tried to
week 2. No, that would be week 11 at the Chiefs on a Monday night. Did the Eagles abstract their Super Bowl revenge?
No. Coming off the bye, which is by the way, nice place for the bye this year. It was a little bit too early last season, although it worked out well for the Eagles. Essentially splitting the season. boy, it's a murderer's row after the bye, and it starts in Kansas City, and yeah, I mean, just a tough matchup. Best quarterback coach combination of the generation, and there's going to be some losses on the schedule. It's not going to be
By
all
the way,
peaches and cream.
I think this will be the first game all year that the Eagles are not favored. You realize they were favored in every game last year except at the Cowboys with Gardner Minshew at the helm. So Jalen Hurts was a favorite in every game that he started last year, and he will not be a favorite in this one. And I'm taking the Chiefs in the Week 11 rematch as well. Bills come to the link in week number 13. Eagles will be favored. Will they be a winner?
Yeah, I got them winning that game. That's obviously going to be a tough game. But I saw enough of Josh Allen last year to know he's going to make a bunch of big plays, but he's probably going to make a big mistake in the fourth quarter. And I think that's going to cost Buffalo in a tough environment. So I got the Eagles back on the winning track and winning that football game.
All right. The week after is week 13 at home against the 49ers, another rematch. They beat the 49ers badly here last year in the championship game. It's here again. That's a major plus. Eagles win or lose against the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm probably paying too much deference to Lincoln Financial Field, but I think they're going to win. They're going to beat the 49ers again. I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback at that standpoint. It's kind of tough to project. I know everyone, hey, let's get it in there with Brock Purdy. I think they win with Brock Purdy. I think they win with Trey Lance. I think they win with Sam Darnold. And I think home field's a big part of that.
So you've got the Eagles winning against the 49ers. I think the 49ers have struck revenge for last year's championship loss. Next weekend at the Cowboys, you already said split, win 1-1, win at home, lose on the road. So you're going a loss there, as am I, which means they will have lost 2 games in a row, back-to-back games against the 49ers and the Cowboys. The next week at Seattle, who I believe both you and I think are going to be one of the better teams, not the best, but one of the better teams in the NFC this year. Road game at the end of a very tough streak of games. What did the Eagles bring to Seattle?
Loss. This is, last year I mentioned the toughest matchup was Christmas Eve in Dallas. It was the third of 3 road games. And obviously it turned out that way. But, Jalen Hurts wasn't there. On paper, this to me is the toughest matchup, just from a standpoint of, you mentioned it's the final game of sort of a murderer's row of 5 games against really good teams. You're on the road for the second consecutive week, going completely across the country. And oh, by the way, it's after a road game against your biggest rival. So I think there's the natural letdown after the Cowboys week. Yeah, this is the worst spot on the Eagles schedule, in my opinion. Sunday, right. December 17th, loss at Seattle. And oh, by the way, that is one of the most difficult places to play when the Seattle's
has been over the years. Yeah. I'm with you. The Seahawks scared the snot out of me, but I think this is where a championship team pulls its mettle together, having lost 2 games in a row. I do not believe it will be 3. I think they'll find a way to go in and win in Seattle. And in the final 3, the Giants, Jonathan Gannon, and the Giants. You got GGG to finish out the season. First at home with the Giants on a Monday night in Week 16. Giants going to put up any kind of a fight against the Eagles?
No, not on Christmas. I mean, they never win here. I don't know how, but Boston Scott's going to score a touchdown. It's the early Christmas gift. It's on the NFL schedule. I mean, they dominate the Giants. I see no reason that doesn't continue. They're certainly going to wax Arizona, maybe the least talented team in the NFL, so everyone get their pound of flesh from JG. And then week 18. I got that as a loss, Jody. Not because
Really?
I think the Giants are good, but I think it's going to be one of those situations. They're probably locked in, whether it's number 1 seed.
They're not going to be locked in as the number 1 seed.
And probably not, because I got them at 12 wins, but they're going to be probably locked in the playoff positioning. And I don't think they're going to play anybody. So I'm giving that one to the Giants.
All right. So you've got them at 12-5?
12-5.
Yeah, I'm going to win in that last game because I don't think they're going to be locked in. I think they might not get it, even if they win week 18, whoever they're in the running with, San Francisco, possibly Dallas can also win in that week, and the Eagles could lose out on a tiebreaker. I do not believe, and this is pure speculation, neither one of us know.
Yeah, I know. It's just
we're 17 weeks down the road predicting not only where the Eagles are at, but all the other teams in the NFC as well.
You know what? It's happened so much over the past few years that one of the teams, and sometimes like last year, the Eagles had to play to get the number 1 seed.
Exactly.
But the Giants didn't have to play. It happens so much. I'm just playing the odds. And somebody might be the Giants. They might be a playoff team. But I think somebody's not going to play. I'm going to guess it's the Eagles. So I'm going to give the win to the Giants.
I'm gonna say the Eagles have something to win on the final game of the season, whatever that may be. We're pure speculation as to what it may be, but I'll say they do have something to play for. So if that's the case, I don't see the Eagles beating the Giants. So I've got them at 14-3. You've got them at 12-5. We agreed on most of the games. You got them losing to the Jets. I got them losing to the Dolphins, and vice versa. I got them losing San Francisco. You have them winning. You have them losing to Seattle. I have them winning that game because I think they're going to be on a little losing streak, and they're going to have to rise to the occasion to stop it. And then the last game of the season, you think that it'll be a JV game for the Eagles. I think they're going to need it. 13-4 and 12-5 are our two numbers. We will get another set of numbers. We won't make them go game by game like John and I just did, but we'll ask them for an overall input as to what the Eagles are going to look like at the end of the 2023 season. And before they ever get started, yesterday we got a chance to get a first feel on the two guys who will be calling the plays for the Philadelphia Eagles this year on both offense and defense. There are two new coordinators. Sat down with the media yesterday. Sitting down with us next is Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com. Does a great job for them. Has done a great job when he's hopped on with us, and he'll do so again next here on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
This is Governor Ed Rendell urging you to vote for my friend Judge Pat Dugan for Superior Court. I appointed Judge Dugan in 2007 to the Philadelphia Municipal Court, where he now serves as its president judge. Pat is a proud Army veteran of 23 years. He served 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's also recommended by the Philadelphia Bar Association. But most importantly, he bleeds Eagles green and hates those Dallas Cowboys. So get out and vote for number 3, Judge Pat Dugan for Superior Court.
Paid for by Dugan 2023.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Appreciate you streaming in with us here on Birds 365. You got McMullen, and McDonald, and we are joined by Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com. I think you logged in early enough to hear the end of the Mac predictions for Birds 365. I got the Eagles 13-4. Johnny's got them 12-5. A lot of the games are the same. We disagree on a couple, but not many. How good a season are the Birds going to have on paper, which we know that's all that it is, Andrew. And then we may or may not need to throw the paper out at some point. What's your paper say on the Birds' upcoming season?
Well, I have them at 12-5, Jody. And the reason being is I think that stretch after the bye week, that 5-game stretch, is a little bit tougher than, I mean, on paper, it's a little bit tougher than I'm sure than the Eagles are used to, at least last year. So I think that could be a proving grounds as to what this team is made of. Obviously, health is going to be paramount here, but I think that they'll be able to close out the season strong in the final 2 weeks. But that those 5 weeks there are going to be really telling.
You know what I like about the schedule, though, Andrew, is the front part for this reason. I think the Eagles are going to, have some hiccups, have some struggles in the changes from Shane Steichen to Brian Johnson, JG to Sean Desai. There's just a natural sort of growing period. They got to intermix a bunch of new starters on defense, especially the back end. But they're playing a bunch of bad teams. So I think they can, gain some confidence early in the season. And then, as you mentioned, that 5-game stretch, I agree with you. I got to win in 2 games, but I think if you win 2 of 5, you're fine.
Yeah.
So I like the way the schedule laid out for the Eagles, and that's the bigger part. The wins and losses are silly, I admit, at this point, but I always look for the themes. And boy, they got a chance. I had to fight to find a loss at the beginning of the season. I ended up with the Jets, who've never beaten the Eagles in the regular season. Jody ended up with the Dolphins on October 22nd. I could see him beating both of those teams and keeping it going and really arriving at the bye undefeated, even with some hiccups, because that's the easy part of the schedule. And I think you gain confidence the more you win.
Yeah, I actually lean towards what Jody was saying, losing to the Dolphins, going down there to Hard Rock. They have something of a track team down there, and that just seems like a game where I think they could drop going into the bye. But that's probably the only game I foresee them going. Foresee them losing.
Well, that game's here. That's if it were in Miami, I would entertain it a little bit more. But they're at the Rams, at the Jets, and then they come back home. So that game's at Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah. Okay. Well, even still, I would say just because of the weapons that they have there.
Yeah, I expect Tyreek Hill to beat them.
They can get out to an early lead, and then it's tough.
Yeah, I definitely expect. I saw joint practices. I saw Tyreek run by the Eagles so much. I'm sure he's going to get them beat deep. But I'm not sold on that Dolphins team yet. I think it's Bills, Jets, and you can argue both of those teams to win the AFC East. Then the Dolphins are a clear third, New England. bringing up the rear. That's my opinion. On the
so you are sold on the Jets.
Jets are going to be a good team. Question is how good. They're going to be a good team, and I think they have 6 standalone games. The NFL seems to know it too. They're going to be good.
There we go. We'll find out about the Jets head coach. You said earlier you don't necessarily like the Dolphins head coach. I think both of those coaches still have something.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't love Robert Saleh either. I sure don't love Nathaniel Hackett.
No.
But, I think the real offensive coordinator that got Nathaniel Hackett the job is now back with Nathaniel Hackett
as the quarterback of the New York Jets. All right, Andrew, yesterday was a first meet and greet with the 2 new coordinators here in town, one of which was elevated to the position, the other of which was brought in from outside. And he seemed pretty happy about it. The new defensive coordinator was more all smiles than the offensive coordinator. And man, did he check off all the boxes of what you want to say to the Philadelphia fan base when you get here in town. He played up very well to the fan base. Were you impressed with Sean Desai yesterday?
I was going to say, first off, we'll see how long that lasts because the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia, outside of Jim Johnson, is usually public enemy number 1 here. But I think that he said all the right things, Jody, and really seems to embody, at least in his opening presser, what Philadelphia expects from their defense. Fast, flowing, physical, grind it out. Yeah, blitzing, all that stuff.
By the way, Andrew, have you ever heard a defensive coordinator say, we want to play slow? We don't want to hit hard. I love it, though. Sean Desai, here's the thing. He coached at Temple with Al Golden back in the day. That's where he started his coaching career. And even though it's Temple and they're never on the front page, to say the least, I think he got a feel for this town. So I think he played the game great. He just, as Jody said, he's gonna throw out all the buzzwords and people are gonna eat it up. I think he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I thought he aced that opening presser, and like you said, he said all the right words, and now it's taking those words and translating it onto the field.
Because that's not going to happen. He's going to play the same defense. That's what's so funny about this.
Right.
But he knows how to play the game better than JG. He's going to say aggressive. He's going to say adjustment. He's going to say, these 4 or 5 core words, and he gets it. And as silly as it sounds, that's going to make things easier for him.
Yeah, I'll be interested to gauge the temperature of the fan base there when you see those first 5 games or so. They're going to tell you that he's great. You know what I mean? They're going to, because he has the mindset of what everyone is looking for and what everybody feels as though the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia should be and should encompass.
Represent our city, impose our will.
Yes.
Well, these are the phrases that the Philadelphia Eagle fan base just absolutely loves. But I did give him credit for this. He avoided using the word blitz.
Because he's not blitzing. He's not dumb.
He's not going to.
Yeah, he didn't say that. That was the one key word that Philadelphia fans wanted to hear. And he was wise enough not to go there because if he doesn't blitz, then they go, what the hell happened? You said blitz. How do you not blitz? So even in the touching all the right bases, he did do justice to what the defense is probably going to be. Or will he? Will we see a change? This is not Jonathan Gannon. We believe it's going to be similar. There's going to be a lot of things that are copied right out of Gannon's playbook. And Nick Sirianni is on record as saying, I've got my core philosophies, and I want to see that to our defense coordinator. Is there wiggle room in there for Sean Desai to be more, I'll use the word aggressive. I won't even tie it to blitz. But will this defense be more aggressive than last year's defense?
I think slightly, Jody. I mean, look, Nick Sirianni laid out the blueprint. That what Jonathan Gannon ran last year, that's what he wants. That's what the organization wants. But I also think that you give your coordinator a little bit of flexibility in how he's able to shape his defense. And I think you are going to see a little bit more of an aggressive-minded defense. Look what Sean Desai did in Chicago a couple of years ago, and I thought that sort of is going to embody what you may see here in Philadelphia. I thought that was much more of an attack style defense. Now, I don't know that's going to be – he's not just going to all of a sudden they're not going to throw their philosophy in the garbage here, and but I think that he will have a little bit of say in which he's able to execute his scheme.
Yeah, I asked Sean about he brought up Vic Fangio on his own, so I followed up on Vic, and it was interesting his answer. He said everybody's got to add their own identity to that defense and apply it. And the reality is there's only been a couple people that have really spent time with him and worked under him, saying himself, he's pointing the finger at himself, and really learned under him and the other people they've learned under through different channels. It's like a game of telephone. How many times if we go down the line, what's the communication when you get to the end? In other words, he's saying, I worked under Vic. I learned under Vic. I was his, mentee. I know what this defense is about. I'm just warning people. He's playing that defense. That's his defense, and he's a part of it. Now, in situations, that becomes a feel. So if it's 3rd and 13, maybe he uses the overload blitz a little bit more. Maybe he doesn't play invert cover 2. Maybe he get off the field. Maybe he does a better job. But the philosophy, I'm warning people, it's not changing.
Exactly. I think situationally, as you alluded to, John, you're going to see a little bit more aggressiveness, which is really what Jonathan Gannon drew the ire of the fan base, being more passive in certain situations. So I think that Sean Desai, when presented with the opportunity, like you said, a 3rd and 13, you might see a little bit more aggressiveness on his end.
You used the word field, Johnny Mac, for the defense coordinator. Well, the offensive coordinator went there too. Brian Johnson, when asked about comping to Shane Steichen and giving credit to Steichen for what he did as the play caller here, said he thought Shane Steichen had a great feel for calling plays. And I like the phrase that he used. It's part art, part science. That some of it is analytics and you do the number crunch and you come up with a play. And sometimes you got to feel the situation. You got to feel the moment. Although he wasn't near as excitable as Sean Desai, did you like what the new Eagles offensive coordinator had to say yesterday?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Brian Johnson. I'm really excited to see what he's able to do with the offensive weapons that he has at his disposal. Obviously, this is someone that has a long-standing history with the quarterback, so you're going to see him accentuate what he does really well, and I think even take it to another level. I think that you're going to see the passing game expand even more here, and Jalen Hurts have more liberties in what he's able to do at the helm.
Yeah, I think Brian's got it a little bit easier for a couple reasons. One, he's been here, and he called the transition seamless. I don't expect it to be seamless because Jody knows I have a ton of respect for Shane as a play caller. Sounds like Brian does as well, by the way. So I don't think it's going to be seamless, but the Eagles are so good on offense. I mean, so good. The quarterback is an MVP candidate. The offensive line, even with some uncertainty at right guard, is going to be top 5 at worst. The receivers, as long as AJ and Devontae stay healthy, that's top tier. Dallas Goedert, they're so talented, and they have enough at running back.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who is going to be the lead back, but somebody's going to be just fine. They have so much talent on offense. I think it's going to work itself out. The defense, there's so much more uncertainty, especially in the back 7. I think they'll be fine up front, but the back 7, I got a lot of questions about. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, I think Sean Desai certainly has his hands full, trying to integrate all these different pieces and have them come together as a cohesiveness on that back end. Even at linebacker, right now they really can't line up at linebacker, John. I don't know. he's going to have
Well,
to.
they can. It wouldn't be good though.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to get creative in how he
Yeah.
deploys his personnel there. But you're right. I think Brian
You
Johnson's...
know, you bring that up, Andrew. I got to throw that. I forget who, Jody, if you remember, because this scared the hell out of me, and I don't think it's going to happen. But somebody brought up playing Nolan Smith at all-ball linebacker. One of our guests, and I didn't even think about that because I don't want to think about that. That would screw him up to no end. And then I had a fan bring it up as well, and I'm starting to get antsy. So many people are bringing this up, and I'm like, the Eagles won't go that. They won't be dumb enough to go down that route, will they?
I mean, you hope not, especially not for a rookie. I think that would be malpractice to throw him in a position where he's not going to be set up to ideally be successful. That's not how I view him, and that's not how many view him long term.
I don't think it's how anybody views him. Yeah.
Again,
I only bring that up because
we can get into the debate of how you describe a player as a positional spot that he's playing. It all matters how you use him on the field, what his responsibilities are on that given play. I could see him as a quote unquote off-ball linebacker if they have only 4 other linemen on the field. If you got a 5-man line and he's one of your linebackers, now you got an issue. Now you got a problem because he's not. But if they played a lot of 5-man line last year, which quote unquote, depending on how you describe it, could have made Hassan Reddick an off-ball linebacker because they only got one other linebacker on the field and 5 guys on the defensive line. Well, is it mandatory you have 2 linebackers on every play? Because it used to be you needed 3 linebackers. Now we're down to like 1. Is it mandatory to say there's got to be a minimum of 2 linebackers on every play?
Well, off-ball linebackers' description of what they're playing off the ball. They're playing, N'Kobe Dean. They're playing Kaiser White. That's, last year, TJ Edwards. Those are off-ball linebackers. And this is why it drives me crazy. And Jody, it drives me crazy when people call Hassan Reddick a linebacker. I don't know.
Then let me ask both you guys. What is an off-ball linebacker? And, oh, by the way, is there any such thing as on-ball linebacker anymore in the National Football League?
There's edge players. There's edge players. Hassan Reddick's an edge player. Nolan Smith is an edge player.
Give me the breakdown between an edge player and an off-ball linebacker.
I just told you. Off-ball linebackers play off the ball. They're not on the line of scrimmage. Right. They're Mike linebackers. They're Will linebackers. They're off the ball. That's why they're called off-ball
hand in
linebackers.
The dirt. You got to have your hand in the dirt to be a.
No, you don't have to have your hand in the dirt. Most edge rushers stand up and they're coming at you.
Yeah,
and they're on the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
They are on the line of scrimmage. It's all depicted
by how many yards behind the line of scrimmage you start to play.
Well, you also have different responsibilities. The responsibility of an edge rusher is to go get the quarterback, is to rush the quarterback. The responsibility of an off-ball linebacker is to blow to the football, running backs. Maybe you're in coverage if it's a passing play. Maybe you're checking a running back coverage. They have different responsibilities. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Read your keys. As Andrew says, they're completely different positions. And this is one of my pet peeves with the NFL, because there's a lot of fans who see that term linebacker, like they say, because a lot of people describe Nolan Smith as a linebacker because he's an edge rusher. He's an old school 3-4 linebacker is what he is.
Yeah.
He's an edge rusher. And by the way, that drives me crazy because nobody plays 3-4. Nobody plays 4-3. No. And people still use that terminology, and it drives me insane. Andrew, does it drive you as insane as it drives me?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All the different terminology and everything like that. It's it's mind blowing how far it's come, but it's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, keys. You said it. Off-ball linebackers are playing. They're the guys who are defending the running plays. They're the guys that Jordan Davis is trying to keep the blockers off of. Mm-hmm. They're the guys who are trying to cover the tight ends, the backs. Now, every once in a while, you got to throw a curveball. We mentioned ESP used to criticize Gannon for putting Hassan Reddick in coverage. Well, a pitcher doesn't throw 100-mile-an-hour fastball every pitch. Occasionally, you got to throw a curveball.
Yeah, you got to shake it up. Yeah.
Yeah, you drop them into coverage to fool the quarterback, but not consistently. And that's kind of my point. Anyway, sorry, Andrew.
But and then I got bad news for you, John. I think that is going to be part of Nolan Smith. And again, it all comes down to percentages. Do I think he's going to be dropping in coverage 60% of the time? No, of course not.
No.
But it's going to be more than once every 25 plays. I think they will use him as a quasi-edge, quasi-linebacker type player. I think that can happen. And again, you tell me, how often would that be acceptable to John McMullen if you're going to drop him in coverage?
Same amount as Hassan Reddick. Basically, not much. Not much is acceptable.
I think the next couple of months will be really telling based on what the Eagles do at linebacker. It'll tell you how they're going to use Nolan. If maybe they're looking to deploy Nolan Smith in the way that Jody's alluding to.
And by the way, to the Eagles' credit, I maybe three of the scouts, they evaluated Nolan Smith as an edge rusher. So from the personnel department, they brought in an edge rusher. Now they can't control what the coaches do. That's up to the coaches.
Right.
But they evaluated him as an edge rusher. So there was no Micah Parsons. Oh, we're going to play him at off-ball linebacker. They evaluated him as an edge rusher. So that's a good sign.
But that scouting department you're talking about has left the coaching staff with the 4 linebackers they have as of right now. So if you don't give them enough bullets in a position that they need to fire a gun every once in a while, what are you going to do?
What scares
you got to make something up. And that means, maybe we should play Smith the linebacker.
But here, and I'm going to say something that is going to upset people. But Nicholas Morrow at weak side linebacker is better than Nolan Smith at weak side linebacker.
Well, you're right. That's true.
Yeah. So that's the problem. Never played it before. Why would you, just because he's an athlete, just throw him into the deep end of the pool? And by the way, I don't think the Eagles are going to do that. I've just heard a number of people mention it as a potential because there's an obvious need, and he's not going to get a lot of playing time at edge rusher. He's going to be the 4th edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it from that standpoint, but I think the Eagles are smart enough to avoid it. But I went into a wormhole. I apologize for that, Andrew.
All good.
We'll get back to the schedule. Now, one of the things I find funny, and I sent Jody a text, I always look out for the first disrespectful tweet about the schedule. The NFL is so disrespectful for the Eagles every year. Did you get a disrespectful vibe any points of the schedule?
Not really. No, I mean, the schedule is the schedule. I thought that having a week 10 bye is actually a pretty good spot, getting ready for the stretch run.
I love that spot.
I mean, obviously that quick turnaround, you're getting it out of the way early. That Thursday night, that second week in Minnesota against Minnesota, I didn't get any. I mean, or are they alluding to the Tom Brady commemoration?
Well, the first tweet we did get was the Tom Brady, New England. First of all, I said it's a bad team, but I think I actually talked. It was Elliot, I can say, because Elliot's my friend, but I did talk to him at the Nova, and I was kind of chuckling about it. And he said it was more to do with the NFC champion should open at home. So he felt that was the disrespectful part of it. I don't know. Is that disrespectful that the NFC champions don't have to open at home?
I mean, I guess depending on how you look at it, but I'm not one that plays into the NFL schedule makers or against the Eagles or anything like that. I just think that's just the way it shook out.
Now, the Eagles will begin the season on the road for a 4th consecutive year, which is the team's longest streak since the
80s, right?
6 consecutive, 83 to 88. So they have been on the road to open up quite a bit recently. Just throwing it out there.
The reason why I'm saying it's not disrespectful, Tom Brady honorarium aside, this is a year where they have more road games than home games. Every other year, you're going to have one extra game. One year, it's going to be a home game. One year, it's going to be a road game. And this year, it's a road game. So you got 9 road games. If the Eagles had gotten a home game, someone would have said, it's disrespectful for the Eagles to have to play 9 of their last 16 games on the road.
Exactly.
That's the schedule. You got to be able to get all the games in. And if you're trying to keep it balanced in a year where you have an extra road game, I would start with a road game.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to please everybody.
No, you're not. All right, let's end it here. At Andrew DiCecco. Make sure you follow Andrew on Twitter, Inside the Birds, InsideTheBirds.com. Michael Clay talked kind of, he's playing the lounge while Sean Desai and Brian Johnson are playing the big room. But, the punting situation is interesting for a couple reasons. One, the Eagles actually brought in competition.
Mm-hmm.
That tells me a lot. They also changed Aaron Cepas's number from 8. They gave 10. That back to Marcus Mariota to 10. But here's the problem. They not only changed his number. That part's not that big of a deal to me, Andrew. They made him share the number. That's not good for a veteran. Am I reading too much into that? Yeah, but now they also gave Ty Zettner, who's the new punter, 49. So it's not like they're saying, hey, Ty, you're going to be our punter. Matt Araiza is out, and everybody's excited about Matt Araiza. Not everybody, because, there's still some issues there. Are the Eagles going to have a new punter?
I think that sharing a number, and sometimes I do read into that, John. I think right now that's sort of indicating this is a legitimate competition. A lot of times you see teams bring in camp bodies just to share snaps. But I think in this situation, Ty Zettner will have a legitimate opportunity here to unseat Aaron Cepas as the Eagles punter. And I think that's sort of a big indication in that direction.
All right, I'm going to use a card playing analogy for my final question for you, Andrew. Are you a card player?
Yeah, a little bit. I dabble.
Okay. That's what we like to hear. Howie Roseman's had a hell of a game. This offseason, he's raked in a lot of pots. He's had a lot of winning hands come his way. And he's got more chips at the table than almost anybody else he's playing against. Should he use that chip stack that he's built up with the roster that he's put together and has the Eagles where they're at right now to maybe try and make one more big play? I've been singing the praises of Patrick Queen here for about 3 weeks after the Ravens decided not to pick up his option on his 5th year. Doesn't mean they have to trade him. Doesn't mean they will trade him. Just means I think they're open to trading him. And oh, by the way, when their general manager last week said, we think of him as a Pro Bowl level player. Yeah, and you didn't pick up his 5th year option. Come on. Do you really think that weak effort is going to fly? I think that was him trying to build up Patrick Queen's value, which tells me he's available. That's the one position where, in my mind, there's no question the Philadelphia Eagles are weaker going into the season than they were last year. Every other position, you can make the argument it is as good, if not better. Will Howie Roseman pay the price of a day 2 pick to go out and get a player like Patrick Queen, even if he's just a rental for 1 year?
I think, Jody, because of the circumstances this year, and you look at what the Eagles did in retaining someone like a Bradbury and restructuring Slay and doing all these things, I think he's very well aware that the window is open to pounce on a Super Bowl run here and take advantage of it. So in that case, I say yes. Under ordinary circumstances, I wouldn't see him parting with anything of substance to get a linebacker. It's not a position that the organization values. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Queen would be a tremendous pick, a tremendous addition to pair opposite Nakobe Dean. They're putting a lot on the shoulders of Nakobe Dean right now, who I do think is poised for a breakout. But I mean, he has 34 career snaps. I think they need to pair him opposite a veteran that can play at a high level. I think Nicholas Moore would be a nice third option. But I think, yes, they should do that. And it's not something that I would take lightly if I'm Howie. I think you have to take advantage of it while they, while the opportunity is there.
Strike while the iron is hot. You and I are in agreement. Andrew, great stuff. Appreciate it much. You hopping on. You got plenty to write about over the next week with the coordinators and the schedule. And then we're all going to have to take a deep breath before camp starts because there's not going to be a whole hell of a lot going on. We'll be reading your stuff in the upcoming week. Thanks for jumping in with us today.
Absolutely, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Andrew.
DiCecco from Inside the
Still got OTAs, Jody. OTAs are going to be exciting. May 30th.
Are we sure the Eagles are having OTAs? Because they seem to believe less is more.
They are having less OTAs than most teams, but they are having OTAs. Yes.
Okay. It's when you actually tell me you got to leave the show early because you have to go over there because the Eagles are actually
May 30th, baby. May 30th.
Okay. Well, we got a couple of weeks to go before May 30th. We'll see if that actually arrives. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. Chris Franklin's going to join us coming up about a half an hour from now. Stay with us here on Birds 365.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
This is Governor Ed Rendell urging you to vote for my friend Judge Pat Dugan for Superior Court. I appointed Judge Dugan in 2007 to the Philadelphia Municipal Court, where he now serves as its president judge. Pat is a proud Army veteran of 23 years. He served 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's also recommended by the Philadelphia Bar Association. But most importantly, he bleeds Eagles green and hates those Dallas Cowboys. So get out and vote for number 3, Judge Pat Dugan for Superior Court.
Paid for by Dugan 2023.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got John McMullen and Jody McDonald, Mac and Mac, Birds 365 on the day after the full schedule release and the first chance to meet the Eagle coordinators. Johnny, I just want to jump back into the schedule for a second, but I do want to ask you some more questions about both Sean Desai and Brian Johnson as well. 5 primetime games. Did I count them up right? That
yeah,
and I think
5.
you said
I thought
yesterday.
they leave it open, 1 for flexing purposes. So I got that one right. The rare.
You did hit that nail right on the head. And if I were a betting man, I would not be surprised if they get flexed in onto one of those games. The only thing that may keep that from happening is they do have a couple of, they've got, no, they got all primetime games. They got a couple of 425s, which means
a lot of
probably the national game. And Fox is going to put their foot down and go, no, you're not taking that one. So they may or may not get that sixth primetime game. But your wishes for Sunday at 1, not too plentiful, my man.
It tells you, by the way, there are 3 1:00 games. Both
3
games
out of 17.
Yeah, both games.
Not a big percentage.
Both teams against both games against Washington. Terrible team projected. In Arizona, terrible team projected. That's it. Everything else, and you mentioned, and look at Buffalo, San Francisco, back-to-back 425s. Not prime time. The CBS for Buffalo, Fox for San Francisco. Those are 2 games that they wanted, and they got those.
They will not be flexed into a night position on Sunday night or Monday night. At least the report is that ESPN can't do it till late in the season. Those games would be early enough, I think, that they would be untouchable anyway. Yes, as you joked yesterday, the disrespect card will be played by someone somewhere because they feel the need to always play it. There's no way you can look at this and say the Eagles were disrespected. No. They are being given their props as the NFC champions Super Bowl participant last year. And I think all the networks want some piece of the Philadelphia Eagles over the course of the season. And that's shown by the placement of the games, the 5 primetime games, and the plethora of late afternoon games that these are going to be considered quote unquote national games.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. And you've heard it for years, Jody. I mean, on the air, the disrespect, everything. The Eagles,
the Eagles have been disrespected, deservedly so, when they haven't been good. If they don't look like a good team, they're going to get
I mean, that rolls overall. But, and the Eagles send out their stuff, and they've appeared in the second most primetime games, 99, in this century. The only team that has played in more primetime games is obviously the Dallas Cowboys. Now people are going, well, they're disrespected. No, Dallas is Dallas. Put Dallas aside. Nobody's been in primetime more than the Philadelphia Eagles. The NFL loves this team. If anything, start looking at the other teams. They're complaining. Like I said, Minnesota week 2. You got to come open up in Philadelphia 2 consecutive years. I guarantee you they got a call over that, the league office. There's plenty of teams. Last year, the Eagles had a better case of being disrespected, to be honest, because they had like 4 games on a short week, which was, it's not disrespect. It's just, it's tough. And they don't have anything like that this year. The league loves this team. That's my only point.
And I agree with your point wholeheartedly. The immediate, nobody likes Philadelphia. Everybody hates Philadelphia, and we don't care. Oh, except that we do care because we then want to bitch afterwards that we're being disrespected. If we really didn't care, we wouldn't say anything. We'd laugh. We'd smile and say, here's what you can do with your way you're handling it. No. We care at times too much. All right, so we did run down the schedule earlier. For those who just streamed in, both John and I have the Eagles getting off to a pretty quick start. John has them winning their first 5 and then losing to the Jets. I have them winning their first 6, but then losing to the Dolphins thereafter. Are the comps going to start immediately last year to this year? And they should. I get it. Same coach, same quarterback, 4/5 of the offensive line. There's a lot of things that'll tie last year's team to this year's team, and it should. There are roster changes, but not major roster changes. Are we going to start the conversation about 17-0 again, or can you?
I'm sure it'll start. I'm sure it'll start pretty quickly because that first 5 games looks pretty easy, to be honest. Now, much like I said last year with Detroit, I'm going to say New England's probably a little bit tougher than it might look on paper, just because it's a season opener, home opener, and those are always a little bit more difficult. But I think ultimately the Eagles find a way, out-talent them, get out of there with a win. I'll throw it back at you, Jody. How disappointed before that Jets game? So I have them losing, as you mentioned, October 15th. You have them losing for the first time October 22nd. How disappointed would you be if they lost one of those games, Minnesota at Tampa Bay, Washington at the Rams?
Yeah, pretty disappointed. They
same
will
here.
be, and again, point spreads are not the be all end all. We see that happens all the time, that upsets come down in any sporting event that you have. So it isn't a lock as soon as quote unquote Vegas. And when I say Vegas is everywhere now these days because of legalized sports gambling in so many states across our country. If it were just that easy, let Vegas make the line and then decide, oh, they're going to win. Oh, they're going to win. They're going to lose. They're going to. It doesn't necessarily go that way, but it's a pretty damn good indicator of the way the games are going to go. Not 100%, but a good indicator just the same. Eagles, Patriots, they'll be favored by more than a field goal, even on the road. Washington will probably be at least a touchdown, if not more than that. Tampa will be on the north side of 5 would be my general guess. I don't think they'll make a more than a touchdown field goal favorite on the road. But then again, if the Eagles are 2-0 and Tampa's 0-2, I didn't look up. I didn't look up Tampa's first 2 games. But if it's 2-0 against 0-2, it could be 7.5 on the road against Tampa. Home against Washington, guaranteeing you that there'll be a double-digit fave, a more than a touchdown fave. And against the Rams, it's going to be at least a field goal. There won't even be a game out of those 5 where it'll be less than a 3-point line. They're going to be favored by more than a field goal in all of them.
Well, they already put out the opening lines. It was 3.5 in New England, some places, and I'm sure it'll flux. And that was, to tell you the truth, a little bit light because of New England's reputation, history, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, and that, see, to me, like they're going to be 5-0, and it's going to fuel those expectations even higher. And I think a lot of people aren't going to recognize, well, this is the soft part of the schedule, and tougher days are coming. And certainly post-bye are those tougher days. That's when they really ramp up. But even before pre-buys, November 5th, Dallas at home, that's a tough game. Again, I'm going to go home and home split, but that's a tough game. So that stretch from November 5th through Seattle, December 17th, that will tell you what this team is. And I think the positive part of the way the schedule is laid out, they get to gain confidence as they're going through the growing pains, because they're going to be able to beat some of those early teams, even making some mistakes that they probably wouldn't be able to make later in the season.
And I think people who wrote it down, printed it out, have it in front of them on their computer screen or their phone or whatever else, when they're going through the schedule, they realize, hey, nice, easy, early schedule, but we've got a gauntlet to run in the mid to back end of the schedule, and then it lightens up. Oh, they know it today. But when they get out 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, people will forget that the big part of the schedule is yet to come. They'll just be basking in the glow of we're undefeated again, just like we were last year. It's general fan reaction. That's natural for people to do. You stay in the moment. The only thing when you're playing the game, the only thing that you think of is at most the game you got next week. And a lot of times that doesn't happen until this week game ends. And then they focus on next week's game. But people aren't looking today, people are looking through 17 weeks. Everybody's looking at the entire schedule. Here's where we can win. Here's where this is tough. We can cakewalk there. Yeah, everybody has a schedule in their head and they're looking at it en masse. When you get into the actual season, it's borderline week to week. It's 2 weeks.
By the way, we haven't done the exercise, and I like this, so I give you credit. The exercise of how you feel if you're forced to go one up or one down, how you feel about the team. I'm at 12-5. You're at 13-4. Now, last year, I remember, I think we were both at 11 at the start, and I went down. You went up.
Yeah, I went up.
You were obviously correct.
We were both short because that only got beat at 12, and they won 14 games.
Nobody thought the Eagles were going to be as good as or they're lying, one or the other. This year, I'm at 12-5, but it forced I'd go up. You're at 13-4. Are you going up?
Yeah.
Or are you going down?
If I had to move off that number, yeah, I don't.
That's tough.
It is. 13. It really is tough.
Yeah.
I don't think they're winning. I'm really locked into my 13-4 number. Do I think they're going to win 14? No. Do I think they're going to win as few as 12? No. I really like my 13, but I got to move one way or the other.
I'm forcing you. That's the point of it. That's the point of the exercise.
If you force me, I would go up to 14.
Wow.
I would more so say up
14-14. Back to back.
14 years. And there's no question. Anyone who says this year's schedule is the same or easier than last year, come on, stop it. You're not paying attention. The way that it played out. And it'll happen, the same thing will happen this year that happened last year. The schedule for me looked tougher prior to the season than the way it played out. You go back and see what the teams were, not only in their games against the Eagles, but all of their other games. It really wasn't a hard schedule last year. They really did have an easy schedule and took advantage of it, went 14-3. As we sit here today, as many teams as they're playing that made the playoffs, grabbing a really tough division, AFC East as your opponent across. And, oh, by the way, the one other game you get, game 17, is the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champion, the team that beat you in the Super Bowl. You can't draw a tougher schedule than that.
Yeah, but if you're good, with Kansas City being a perfect example, if you're good, you're good. And, you're going to play a first-place schedule. The minute you're in first place and the season ends, you're going to play a first-place schedule, which doesn't mean as much as it used to because it's even a little bit more structured. But when you're having that extra game, you're going to play a first-place team. So it's first place against first place. And that's part of it. But good teams are good teams, and they're going to win games no matter what the schedule is. And I do think the Eagles are a very good team. But, it's interesting. If you flip this schedule and you had that group of games, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, Seattle, even throw the Giants, and that was the first 6 weeks. We talked about Kansas City. Everybody was saying for weeks, is the season going to open at Kansas City? And then Mama Kelsey, week 2. It was supposed to be early. If you had that at the start of the season, then I think you're in a 2-3, 3-2 mode, coming off a 14-win season. I think that's underrated, Jody, because I think people start getting antsy at that point because the expectations are so high. That's why I love the setup of the schedule. They have the bad teams at the start. They're not bad. Minnesota's not a bad team, but
they're the lesser team.
Yeah. At the start of the season, I think it allows them to get their footing. I think it's a really big break, to be honest.
And a key game, and you and I disagreed on this one because we acknowledge Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, 2 of the 4 on the road, really tough. And then at Seattle. And Seattle made the playoffs this past year. They were the 12th man is one of the toughest places to play in the National Football League when they're good. And they were good last year. They weren't great. They made the playoffs, got bounced in the first round. But they were good. can they do that again with Geno Smith? Is he going to be a one-year wonder, or is he has he really found his footing in the National Football League in year 8 of his career, year 9 of his career? I don't know about that. That's the key game. That will help. You said that that run will dictate it, and we kind of put the 4 together, but then you add that 5th, Seattle. If they go 2-2 in that 4-game section, John, which I think is fair, unless you're either an equal acolyte and you got the shades on and you're saying, oh, we're going to beat them all 4-0 and nobody can beat us. Or if you're a Negadelphia guy, so that's where the season ends. They're going in the tank. 2-2. They come out of that 2-2. They've got Seattle that next week. That really is a key game. You said earlier, well, they're going to take advantage of a very easy early schedule, but we'll find out what they are after that run. Oh, I think we'll find out with the Seattle. If they go 2-2 in that run there, and then they turn around and lose to Seattle, I think we'll have nervousness here in Philadelphia. I think.
Yeah, and that's what I have happening. I have them going 2-3 over that stretch and losing in Seattle before righting the ship on Christmas, and then you get the breather with Arizona. Yeah, probably. I mean, there'll be some concerns, but that's and I'm with you. And Zander, we did a schedule show last night here on JAKIB Sports, the YouTube page, and I mentioned it last night, and Zander brought up, well, let's see Geno do it again, which is fair. It's very fair. There's been more bad football from Geno Smith than good football. But, I think they're a good team. I think they're a better team than people realize. And I think he'll be fine. I don't think he's going to be a superstar. I think he'll be fine at quarterback. But I just hate the spot. I just hate the spot of going. We know teams have had so much struggle, West Coast teams coming east and vice versa, to begin with. The body clock game, the so-called body clock games. But again, it's the second game on the road, and the game before it's second consecutive game. And the game before is at Dallas, it's Dallas week. Now, Nick Sirianni is smartened up to the point he's not going to wear the Beat Dallas t-shirt. He's not going to try to make something more of it than you should. He's learned from that. But it's still, people get juiced up for that more than, all right, Seattle's not in our division. Yeah, it's in the conference, but not in the division. It doesn't have as much oomph. I think there's a natural letdown to that effect, and it's a really difficult place to play. I just hate the spot. I hate the spot, and that's why I think the Eagles are going to probably slip up in that game.
And if you think they're going to lose 3 out of 5 in that stretch, you would go, man, is there enough time on the back end to get it back in motion, to get back on a winning track, to have that really good feel going into the playoffs? I'd like to compare it to last year. John, they lost 2 of their last 3 games.
Yeah.
They didn't get a win to end the season until the Giants came to town, and they certainly.
And by the way, they played poorly in that game. I mean, I think people overstated the threat because the final score was close, but the Giants were playing their JV. They did not exactly look like world beaters.
Right, but the Giants also scored late.
Yeah,
you didn't really think the Giants had any.
No, I'm the one who said they had no shot of winning that game at all points. But there's a bunch of people. It was 22-16, blah blah blah. Yeah, it was sort of a nonsense game.
It was a nothing burger, is what that game was.
And they proved it when the Giants came here for the playoffs, and it was 38-7. But remember, at the time, Jalen Hurts was out. He had a shoulder injury that looked pretty significant, and he didn't look like himself. So there was a little bit of hemming and hawing that, in hindsight, as you mentioned, is a nothing burger. But yeah, they didn't look good. people forget now because they won the Super Bowl. So they looked terrible down the stretch of that season after Carson Wentz got hurt. You know, they had a couple games to the point where Doug Peterson said, all right, we got to scrap what we're doing. John DiFilippo, Frank Reich, figure out what Nick Foles does well. Let's ship this entire thing. People kind of forget those struggles at the end of the regular season.
And let me say this about yesterday's two coordinator gatherings. So you guys got your first chance to talk to the coordinators. Sean Desai seems like a likable guy. He said all the right things. He had all the right notes. He sucked up to the Philadelphia fan base the best way he possibly could. Good on him. We'll see what he does. The new offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, a little more reserved. He never laughed. At least Desai laughed. Somebody said something, I forget what it was, that he actually laughed out loud, which at least I like to see. Much more buttoned up was Brian Johnson. But the one thing that he said that I liked, you just made reference to it, is he's not going to try and put a square peg in a round hole. Oh, it was about the running backs. He was asked about how are you going to use Rashad Penny, how you use the DeAndre Swift. He said, listen, they bring different things to the table, gives us great flexibility at the running back position because they are different type players, and we're going to get them to do what they do well and make it work for our offense. That's one of my biggest knocks on coaches, and head coaches certainly, but head coaches who are calling plays in football are a bigger contributor to it. You've got your philosophy, and your philosophy is the way that you're going to do things. And you're going to take guys who might not necessarily be strong at what you would hope would be the best case scenario in their positions and you're going to just take the results as they come rather than try and tinker with your system to get the most out of players and what their strengths are. I really like the fact that Johnson went there yesterday and said, I'm not a guy who's going to put a round peg in a square hole. We're going to figure out what our guys do well. We're going to mesh that with our philosophies and our systems and the like. And I think that's the best way to coach. So I was really glad to hear that out of him.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the best way to coach. I agree with you that some people don't do it, but everybody says they're going to do it. So, that's something you always say. Everybody says, and then they don't do it, and they fall back into their crutch of their philosophy of their scheme. The Eagles have shown pretty consistently, especially offensively. Look, a lot of people think the defense changed from year one to year two. It didn't. They just got better players, they were able to play what they wanted to play more. So things shifted from, you mentioned all the 50 fronts. They used it more because they had better players to utilize it. Whereas the year prior, they had Jannard Avery and Javon Hargrave trying to play nose tackle. Well, good luck with that. You can't play as much 50. So the defensive scheme didn't change. The philosophy didn't change. The talent level changed. The offense, they were a completely different offense at the beginning of Nick Sirianni's first season. They were trying to throw the ball, 11 personnel, more like what Indianapolis did. And then they said, all right, this is not working. Jalen Hurts was still a developing quarterback. They felt they put too much on his plate too soon. They scaled it back into more of the RPO zone read stuff, and everything took off. I give them tons of credit for that. A lot of people don't do that. They say they'll do it, but they don't do it.
Yep.
So I think Nick Sirianni deserves a lot of credit, and Brian Johnson's a part of it. I believe him when he says that, but everybody says it. I mean, that's one of those things. And
until
not everybody does it.
Maybe this is my naivete, but until when someone hasn't been given the chance to prove that they're going to do something or not do something, I'm going to take them at their word. Now, if you go out there and you don't get it done, or you basically come out and lie to us, then I'm going to beat the snot out of you. I'm going to hit you over the head. But this is the first chance we've had to hear him talk about how he will do play calling. And if he says he's going to be open-minded and tap into the skill sets that his players have and adjust the system, and you never get away from your core of core values, but there's always flexibility to be had. I was glad he said what he did. Now I hope that it actually plays that way once the season starts. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. Our pal, Mr. Day After. He joined us most Mondays during the season, and we figured this was a day after the schedule.
Post-game day schedule.
Chris Franklin from NJ.com up to join us here on Birds 365. He's next.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
This is Governor Ed Rendell urging you to vote for my friend Judge Pat Dugan for Superior Court. I appointed Judge Dugan in 2007 to the Philadelphia Municipal Court, where he now serves as its president judge. Pat is a proud Army veteran of 23 years. He served 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's also recommended by the Philadelphia Bar Association. But most importantly, he bleeds Eagles green and hates those Dallas Cowboys. So get out and vote for number 3, Judge Pat Dugan for Superior Court.
Paid for by Dugan 2023.
EAGLES, Eagles.
John McMullen, Jody McDonald, here with Young Birds 365 Football Friday. Schedule release, new coordinators met. And Chris Franklin's with us on a Friday. We almost always have him on a Monday. You got plans for the weekend, Franklin? You going to go out and do anything you're not proud of?
Isn't that every day? It sounds like we're going to try. That's you got to have fun. That's you got to live it up.
That's a good answer out of you.
Well, thank you. I try to bring the joy that I share with everybody that's around. And
all right, yeah, we need some joy here. I think people are still hungover from that Sixers game, so we need a little bit of joy. Chris Franklin, yeah, we see the pain. I brought the pain back. You seem to have gotten over it, but I brought the pain back.
It's one of those times where I'm actually glad I don't cover the team anymore. Where you start seeing it's almost like watching Groundhog Day. It's like, wait, we've been here before. Wait, a game 7. Oh wait, oh yeah, second round. We know how this. You know what the ending is, but you can't stop it.
Yeah, we've seen this movie. We're tired of the sequel. Unfortunately, I don't think things are going to end up well, but you never know. You got to play the games. Now, go ahead.
I will say, I still say if I saw Scott Frost as referee tonight, if you see Tony Brothers the referee tomorrow, yeah, just don't even watch the game. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Now the paper is out for the NFL. Got to play the games, but we'll open the floor. Just your thoughts. What do you like? What do you dislike about that schedule?
Well, I think it's a reverse of the 2021 where you start out really easy and then there's that stretch after the bye week where they start. I call it the stretch of death, where you started with Kansas City, and then I end it with Seattle. But you really could extend it to the Giants because of the division game, and it could be really close already with that. That was really tough. And then the fact that you start the season out on the road, which get it, but then you come back for a Thursday night game, like it is. That's a rough combination to start with. But I guess every team look right now is pretty looking like, why'd you guys give us this? Why'd you guys give us that?
Yeah, being on the road is no walk in the park for the Vikings, as John's pointed out a couple times. Opening the Eagles season 2 years running for the Vikings. Yeah, I'm not going to complain.
They didn't handle it well last year. I don't think they're going to handle it well this year.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins prime time doesn't work real well for Minnesota. All right, here's the question I have for you. If I tell you one of these is going to happen and the other one isn't going to happen, you tell me which one is more likely. The Eagles will win 14 regular season games again, or the Eagles will go back to the Super Bowl. Which one is more likely?
I say,
by the way, 14 or more. If they go 15-2, that counts down. I'm not going to go, they didn't win 14, they won 15. No, I mean 14 or more.
I'd go the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl, and the reason why I has this, I have them going 12-5. I think San Francisco is going to win the 1 seed. So I'm thinking I just look at some of the schedule. I think they 12. I was going back and forth between 11 and 12. I think it's 12, but then they'd have to go out to the coast for the NFC Championship game, where anything can happen. Is tough to go cross country and play. But yeah, I think it's more toward. I think they do go back to the NFC Championship game, but I think it's more towards they go back to the Super Bowl as opposed to 14, 15 games with this schedule. It's they do that. That's impressive. Being 14
with this schedule, very tough.
Yeah. You mentioned that Seattle game. I'm glad you brought that up because when I look at this schedule, they play better teams, but that to me is the most difficult individual spot on this schedule. On the road, second consecutive road game after going to Dallas a year back in the Super Bowl season. The Eagles had the Rams and the Seahawks on their schedule, and the NFL did them a favor. Back-to-back games, they stayed on the West Coast. That's not going to happen here. They'll go to Dallas. They'll come home. They got to go out to Seattle. Seattle's a good team. That is a really difficult place to play. That is the individual spot-wise. That looks like the most difficult game to me. Thoughts on that?
I think for me, I can see that happening. I mean, Seattle hasn't been kind to them as well, too. I mean, they've struggled every time they've gone up there to win. It's been a rough place. But the one for me is the one against the Bills, because you're coming off that Chiefs game where it's going to be emotional. And then you have the look-ahead factor that you had the 49ers after that. And it's like, oh, yeah, you had the Buffalo Bills, one of the teams that was thought. Too.
Yeah, that's
so a good, it's rough.
Yeah. I didn't think about that look ahead. You're right. You got revenge, Kansas City, revenge, San Francisco. Well, that more from the 49ers perspective, but people will be fired up from that game. And then in between is Buffalo, which is just kind of there, but is really a good team.
Yeah. We all know that in this city, the Cowboys are that rival, but right now, when you're looking at a team that's getting close there, I think the 49ers are inching very close, especially with all the stuff that was said this offseason, just that stuff that was said last week, with Deebo Samuel and everything. Yeah. I think that game is starting. And these teams are going to be good for a while. I think that could start to be the rivalry in the NFC.
All right, I want to look at a key game, an absolute must-have, got to win it, no questions asked. Week 17 against the Arizona Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon coming back to Philadelphia. We know what kind of reception he's going to get from the fan base. But let's say the Cardinals are 2-13 at that time, and either Colt McCoy or David Blau or Clayton Tune is the quarterback.
David Blau. I love David Blau.
Is in there and quarterbacking. I think they got Driscoll too. As a matter of fact, they unlike Tampa just signed the Rams guy, so they finally added their third quarterback to their roster. Arizona's got 5. Tampa's got all of 3. But one of those guys who is not their usual starter, Mr. Murray, is starting a quarterback. How much pressure is going to be on Jonathan Gannon to go full-fledged Tankapalooza and make sure he gets the first pick in the draft? Because I think they'll come to town about 2-13, but there'll be another 2-13 or a 3-12
I
team.
think that kind of takes care of itself if you're starting who? Chandler Tune? Who?
Yeah, if they're going in there, you don't have Kyler Murray and everybody else is gone. They're smoked.
But at least Kyler will be hurt. I don't think they'll actually sit him for one of those guys, but Kyler can get hurt at the drop of a hat, so I would not be surprised.
Nobody knows more about tanking than Philadelphia, obviously.
Yeah. That's what I mean. They'll be. It may save Jonathan Gannon's bacon from getting booed every play of the game.
Here's the deal: players and coaches do not tank. Ask Lovie Smith. Executives tank, and they have to set it up so you can't win, like Sam Hinkie did with the Sixers. So. You remember in the early tanking days of the Sixers, they were trading guys like Matt Geiger because he was a little bit too good, and he wasn't very good. So you get rid of anybody who can play, and it kind of takes care of itself. But the coaches and players are always trying to win. They're always trying to win.
I think Kyler's going to have – I know he's got that big contract, but I think Kyler's going to have a fire under him because he knows that if they're at that point and – they need to win as many games as possible, so that way they're out of the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Like, you guys, we're trying to win. I don't think they win that game, but if they do, it's like, oh wow, what happened? Sorry, I just stopped you from trying to get my replacement. I'm out. See it.
Which he'd be very willing to do because he's had an attitude since he got to Arizona, and his favorite coach, who moved heaven and earth to get him, is no longer there anymore. So, good luck with that, Kyler. All right. They got the Giants twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. John, we ran it down earlier. We did the WL thing. John's penciling on a loss for a game 18 because he doesn't think the Eagles will have anything to play for. They'll be locked into their playoff position. I said, no. I think they'll be playing for something. Don't know if it's going to be for the number 1 seed or the division or whatever. I think the Eagles are going to need that last game. The Eagles dominated the Giants last year, beat them 3 times, and 2 of them were just complete crush jobs, and the other one was returning from action. Jalen Hurts got well ahead, and they kind of put the wraps on the game. Giants got a couple of late points to make it closer than it actually seemed. Are the Giants going to give the Eagles a tougher time than they did last year?
I think during that first game, Christmas Day, I think it'll be a little bit closer matchup. I think overall the Eagles do win that. I mean, Waller, and that's another guy who was talking about Kyler Murray. If he's healthy around that time, if Waller stays healthy, I think he adds. It changes things dramatically in the middle of the field for that team. And Daniel Jones, listen, man, if he gets a second year in that system on Dable, and we know what Dable's been able to do with Josh Allen, not calling Daniel Jones Josh Allen whatsoever at all. I think there's a big divide between them, but we saw when it comes to decision making and where to go to the ball and progressions, it's big. So I think they can actually get better. So the Eagles win a game. I think the Eagles win both games only because the division's I think it's going to come down to the division in that week 18, and we're not going to like it in the media, but I think that last game is going to be flux, knowing that it's going to be they're going to drum it up as the NFC
East. You just ruined my day. I didn't even think of that.
We'll get the graphics. NFC East championship game, but even though one team's really playing for it.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a good point.
John was banking on his 4th out of 17 games. His fourth 1 o'clock game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Chris Franklin says, "Not too fast, my friends."
Yeah.
That will not be Sunday at 1. Huh,
that's
Chris?
a good point. I would say to Jody's point, the Giants have to be more competitive than they were last year. I would think they have to be, but I still don't think they're
more
ready.
Competitive against the league, or more competitive?
No,
against
more
the
competitive
Eagles?
against the Eagles. I mean, they got waxed in the first game, and they got waxed worse in the playoff game. And in I don't even count week 18 because of all the issues, but yeah, they were not close to the Eagles last year. They almost have to be a little bit more competitive. Now, I want to steer you to this, Chris. Where did you find the first loss on this schedule?
I believe it was at home against the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins were the one.
I had them losing for the first time ever to the New York Jets in the regular season. But we're all three. We're in. So that's week 6. Miami's week 7. You guys both had them losing to Miami at home. Those first 5 games, how disappointed would you be if the Eagles lost one of those first 5 games?
I think there'd be some issues. I think that I can see the one I could see, like, and I went back and forth with, was that game against the Patriots, only because there's a lot going on with it's week 1. And you have a lot going on with Tom Brady coming back, and you don't know if the Patriots feed off that for the first quarter, they really jump out to, like, say a 10-0 lead or like a 17-7, something like that. And then you get your first true sense of the defense that the Eagles are running. So I think there's a lot going on there that there's a lot of question marks at. But I think it's one of those things that if they weather the first quarter and they just get back to being the team that they're expected to be, I think they win that game. But if they don't come out of that at least 4-1, I think they should go 5-0. But if they don't at least come 4-1, 6-4-1 out of those first 5, I think they'll be looking back on it and kicking themselves.
All right, Chris Franklin, you and the rest of your compatriots got a chance to talk to both Sean Desai and Brian Johnson yesterday for the first time in their new positions as Eagle coordinators. Who impressed you more?
That's tough. I say Desai only because we never got to see what Desai was. Only because we never got the chance to see Desai until yesterday. I knew Brian. I like Brian, especially a lot when it comes to looking back to his days in Florida, looking back at the way that offense was operating and some of the little wrinkles he did. But the fact that the only thing I had on Desai was trying to look back at his old press conferences back from Chicago. We had also that thing. And then I like what he was saying in terms of when it comes to what the vision he has for the defense, what he learned from his time in Chicago and stuff like that. I think it's more. I think it's him more the fact that we didn't haven't seen him more. But I think they're both. You can see why they hired them in terms of when it comes to, like, trying to rile up their guys and their minds, and when it comes to defense and offense scheme and stuff. But yeah, I go for yesterday. I probably go Desai on that one.
Yeah, I kind of saw he's got a master's degree in education from Columbia, I believe. And he's got a doctorate from Temple. So he's a really smart guy. You could see him. He was trying to educate us during the press conference. Yeah. You guys know what this means? And we're looking at him like we're writers, dude. Give us some credit. But yeah, you could see he's got education in the background. He's trying to bring people in. And yeah, I thought he hit a home run. I really did. Yeah, I thought he learned from his time. I was telling Jody, his time at Temple under Al Golden, Temple's not a big deal in this city, but I think he knows this city, and I think he hit all the boxes, and he knows what people want to hear in this city. And, the grit, the toughness, that we're going to play fast. And I'm still waiting for the defensive coordinator saying, no, we want to take it easy. We want to not be gritty. But I think he checked all the boxes. I really did. I was really impressed with Sean Desai. I could see why Nick Sirianni. And that's a difficult decision because Denard Wilson had been here, has a ton of respect, especially in that secondary room. But I thought he seems like a good teacher, and he should be. He's got a freaking master's degree in teaching, essentially.
Yeah. I think that's important. Well, I'll go back quickly. You think about that squad that they turn around for Temple football. Yeah, Al Golden, who believes the Michigan defensive coordinator, Matt Rule, who we all know is Carolina, and then decide that's a pretty good staff to have there on North Broward. But when you look at the learning aspect, the teacher aspect, he needs to do that, especially yes, if he wants to find ways to communicate his system the way he wants things done. You need a guy who says on monotonous, like Ben Stein, like a Ben Stein guy. This is where you line up in cover 2 and 3. I was going to lose things. You're like, oh, what are we doing here? So that's going to be an important thing, and finding to engage ways to do that so it sinks in for especially not only the veterans but the rookies. I think that's going to be important for them if he wants to have early success.
All right, correct me if I'm wrong, but Matt Patricia and his pencil never brought up yesterday. How did that come down?
That's a good point. We should have brought up Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take that. We'll take that L. We'll take that L.
And this is all speculation. I wonder how much it was more of a hey, Boston connection. Hey, this guy's really good, and could you bring him over? Like if Bill asked Jeff for a favor or something like that, or hey, this guy's pretty good.
Maybe they're trying to win week 1. Maybe they said, hey, the Patriots are going to be week 1.
Well, I thought it was interesting too. I thought when they initially hired him, the fact that they had to face the AFC East, why not at least have a guy who's familiar with everybody?
That's
at least
true. You knew you were getting NFC.
Yeah.
You didn't know you were getting Patriots week 1. That just kind of came to the fore. But you did know you were playing all 4 AFC East teams, so that's not a bad thing to have.
They have more info
if you
than
had
us,
asked the question, would he have gotten the same exact route as his head coach and say it's trending in that direction? Do you believe that's the answer you would have gotten if asked, hey, is Matt Patricia going to be on your staff?
I think the question would be, we're always looking for talented coaches. You need as many people as possible, because you want to surround yourself with the best minds so that you can have success and we grow.
Good spin job out of you, Franklin. Very good.
I started to remember over and over what they say.
No, I would say, though, no, we can't do that because it's official now, even though the Eagles tried to hide it as long as humanly possible. I did happen to catch, one of the Eagles spokespeople coming off the field at rookie camp, and I said, "Hey, my exact wording was, is Matt Patricia part of this staff, or should we just stop asking?" And he said, "No. What do you mean? Wait, senior defensive assistant." I go, "Well, you didn't announce it. He's not on the website, but no, he's officially part of the staff." So. Sean couldn't have said it's trending in that direction. It has trended.
Was he spotted at the practices you guys
did
were
not
allowed
see
to
him.
attend
see
for
him.
15
I
minutes?
did not see him.
I didn't see him. Yeah.
So he's an invisible senior defensive assistant is what you're telling me.
He's a senior defensive assistant. I saw a bunch of people say that he's not the linebackers coach. He is a senior defensive assistant. And what that means is to be determined. But it does bring up an interesting point because Matt has a lot of experience. If things start to go in a negative direction defensively, how quick does that start up? Oh, well, Matt Patricia's here. He's got more experience than Sean Desai, although not a lot of people like Matt Patricia. Do you see a potential path to some controversy? Because
I don't think so. I think if anything, everybody's gonna go look at Matt Patricia the last few years. That's why the defense is bad. He's on the staff. He's part of his ideas.
Yeah, good point.
I think it'd be one of those things in there. And I just remember from that whole day when they announced was he on the staff or not. They added him and they put him on the website. Then he went away, and then he wasn't officially announced. He's announced as an analyst, but yet his bio's not on the website. I don't know if they're waiting for him to get his trademark pencil so they can put the picture on in when they have it ready for the program for the media guys, stuff like that. But yeah, it's a strange hiring. I think it's gonna be more like Jim Bob Cooter, where it's like, hey, you know what? Okay, this is what I've seen from their scheme. This is what I would do. This is how we played this team beforehand. That showed this look. have at it. And then if the defense is good, maybe he tries to spring that board that to, hey, look at this. Well, I had this say in the Eagles being good. Hire me as your DC or head coach.
Yeah.
In addition to your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you got to hear from your special teams coordinator yesterday. I like the way John described it. He's playing the back room while the other two are playing the front room. But come on, offensive coordinators, defense coordinator, it's special teams. You got to have a good special teams. And what has Howie Roseman done to upgrade the special teams this offseason, Chris Franklin?
I think you're going to try to rely on the rookies. I really think that between the rookies that you have, the Dan Arnold thing is interesting, even though it's just more like, I think when it comes to like the punt return thing, he was on some coverage teams, but I think more on the punt return team. But I really think they're going to have to rely on these rookies. And then the punter. I mean, Zeitner, when you look at Zeitner and Siposs, I mean, who would have thought one of the biggest camp bells that we're going to be watching all the time is, wow, let's see, okay, does he place this inside the 20? It's something like watching golf. It's like, oh, wow, look at that. He got it close to the goal line without it going over.
Jimmy Kempski's wheelhouse, compensatory picks and punters. I'm just going to look at Jimmy, say, what's going on at punter?
I like the backspin and how it gave him the hang time was good too. We're all out with their stopwatches thinking, checking hang time and just going, okay, yeah, that's good enough. Click.
Ty Zettner. Here's where I go, and I've said this to a couple guests. I'll throw it out to you. The numerology aspect of it. They took number 8 away from Siposs, gave it to Mariota. But here's the problem. They made him share number 10, Chris. He's sharing. He's a veteran player sharing a number with a rookie quarterback. That's not a good sign, is it?
It's pretty telling on that one, too. The fact that, well, also those special teams guys, they're like, yeah, they're there. So it is kind of telling when it comes to that. You think there'd be some more numbers, but I can see that being, maybe the fact that I can see Siposs going like, I don't care, just give me a number, and then Mariota maybe saying, here's $5,000.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he doesn't.
I'll Venmo you some money. Here you go. Just don't bring any attention
to it. Yeah, if you get that nice Venmo, maybe that's it. Yeah. All right. Chris giving us alternative theories. I like it.
Just as long as not alternative facts, we're good.
Gave me a little surprise there, Chris. You think that Dan Arnold, the tight end they signed from Jacksonville, is going to make it because of special team prowess?
Well, I think when you look at what he does, I think because they're
he's a receiver too.
Yeah, they're full at tight end. Stoll's their blocker, the blocking guy. But when you look at the areas he uses, he's the same. He does the same thing. And they've been high on Calcaterra, thinking he's a good receiving tight end, but the problem was his blocking. Well, Arnold's not the best blocker in the world either. So I'm looking at one of those things and like, okay, and Tyree Jackson, I like what he brings size-wise and things, but he just hasn't been able to stay on the field. So you got to question that as well, too. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, if I think Stoll remains because of his blocking, because you can't have, besides Goddard, you can't have everybody else just being receiving tight ends because he's going to be on pattern. So I'm like, all right, one of these guys may be on the block, and Arnold brings that extra thing, and they've had issues with special teams. So I thought, all right, maybe I think he's more in play than I think people believe.
Well, then who are the 3 tight ends they're going to keep? Because you're not going to tell me they're going to keep 4 tight ends.
They're not going to keep 4.
No,
I think it's one of the things where you can see it's a possibility where you could see. I think it could be Goddard, Stoll, then Arnold. I think Calcaterra is right on the thing. If he doesn't improve enough,
he better show up in camp. Otherwise, he could find himself either on the practice squad or on another squad.
I think it's one of the things where he needs to show he's a better blocker. If he's not the same, and he showed a little improvement toward the end. I'll give him that. He showed a little bit more improvement in, but if it's not to where they want him to be at, I think especially knowing that this team has a window now right now, I can see Arnold be getting a shot right there and just hoping he clears. He's available to add back on.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I think it's I think he's got a bigger chance than most people realize, Dan Arnold, to be a backup tight end on this team. At C Franklin News, make sure you follow Chris on Twitter. Read him all over the place, most notably NJ.com, Lehigh Valley Live, Times of Trenton, all over. I'll leave it here. We've been talking about all-ball linebacker. Peter King said there's no weaknesses on this team where he can't find a weakness. I could find one, all-ball linebacker. Jody has floated out the go seize the moment, get Patrick Queen. A lot of fans think you should say, hey, play Nolan Smith at all-ball linebacker. One, the Eagles, please tell me the Eagles are not going to play Nolan Smith at all-ball linebacker. And two, is Patrick Queen a legitimate potential trade targets?
I'll start with the Nolan Smith thing. Only time I could see him playing off-ball linebacker is using an exotic look. If you're trying to change something up, some weird blitz look or some weird thing to really confound somebody. Yeah. Other than that, he's better as an edge guy, more Sam type guy. When you look at just the Patrick Queen stuff, I think that I like him to be here. I think the price might be a little too rich to get there. And then because also you want to get him in here and you give up a draft pick, I think he's going to want. I think he can warrant at least a fifth or fourth, which you think like, oh, that's not that much, but given that they've given away some of those picks already, and they're using compensatory picks, and they're probably use it next year, you'll need them. And then if you want to keep him around for a while, you got to extend him because you know he's going to want a new contract. And given that this history that this team has with the off-ball linebackers and not spending as much on there, they're probably not going to be able to want to pay what he thinks he's going to be able to get on the open market. So, yeah, it's a nice thought in theory. I think he hasn't played as well as I thought he would play down the Ravens. I mean, in fact, they drafted him.
Didn't you hear his general manager last week call him a Pro Bowl level player?
No.
Yeah, hey, you'll be a Pro Bowl level player. Yeah. Hey, look at this. Look, even though this is it's a bad comparison. That's right. Look, if you're a grocer going, look at this tomato. Look at the great, beautiful side this one has. You look at the back, it's all bruised up. Oh, okay, yeah. Therefore, you do the same thing that way too.
Now you're going to the opposite end of what the GM did. He's not that bruised. He's a pretty darn good linebacker last year. And yes, I think the Eagles would be well advised attempting to get him because even if you don't resign
not a Pro Bowl linebacker,
you're going to get a compensatory pick for him.
Yeah, not a Pro Bowl linebacker.
Yeah, I think the way, especially I think with some of the potential, and this is going way in the future. I think they make a compensatory ones, but I think they can get some higher ones that may knock him doan potentially. Like it might not be as much as high potential if some of those guys leave in free agency. So it's thing. I think they'll max out in 2025 when 2025 draft rolls around. They'll max out in that, but I don't think it's going to be too. I think the cost is going to be a little too rich for the Eagles to want to pay.
I think it would be a smart move on Howie Roseman's part. The Eagles are all in for this season, or they should be all in for this season. And they got one outstanding position where they're not as good as they were last year, and that's linebacker. Well, cross your fingers that Christian Ellips develops. No, I'd rather go get a guy who's had 110 tackles and pay the price that I have to pay. Chris Franklin, always a pleasure, brother. Appreciate you coming on board. You know, we'll be checking in a couple of weeks. I asked you this to begin with. You didn't answer. You gave me some funny but flippant answer. What the hell are you doing this weekend?
Well, I know I'm going out this week. I know I'm going out this week. I don't know where yet. And then after that, it might be rest.
Sunday in front of the TV, Sixers game 7 at least. Can we count on you for
that? Oh, man.
If I watch that,
I don't know.
My stomach might be churning after all. I think I might want to go like this too. Nah.
I'll tell you what, it'll be like I don't know. Chris is sort of a wrestling guy, not as big as me and Mike K, I don't think, but I don't know if you know Orange Cassidy. I'm going to give the Sixers the Orange Cassidy test. I'm going to give them 5 minutes, and if they start like they started in Game 6, I'm out. I'm not going to waste my time. If they show up, all right, I'll give them a chance. That's how I'm going to approach it.
For the wrestling aficionado, I think it has the potential to be a squash match early on in Boston. All eyes.
That's my concern.
And make sure Tony Brothers is not the referee. That's it.
Hopefully, the Sixers are Orange Cassidy this week because all the guy does is defend his championship. So we need these
terrible character. I don't want to see a terrible game. Terrible character. I don't want to see a terrible.
I'll take a terrible game as long as it ends up with the correct result. With Orange Cassidy, it's always a win. That's all I'm asking for. I don't care how friggin' ugly it is, as long as they come out on the long end of the score. Franklin, always a pleasure. Thanks, CF. We'll get you back up in a couple of weeks, buddy.
Thanks,
guys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
NJ.com is where you're going to find Chris Franklin. All right, you find us coming back to put a bow on the show and the week here on Birds 365.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
This is Governor Ed Rendell urging you to vote for my friend Judge Pat Dugan for Superior Court. I appointed Judge Dugan in 2007 to the Philadelphia Municipal Court, where he now serves as its president judge. Pat is a proud Army veteran of 23 years. He served 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's also recommended by the Philadelphia Bar Association. But most importantly, he bleeds Eagles green and hates those Dallas Cowboys. So get out and vote for number 3, Judge Pat Dugan for Superior Court.
Paid for by Dugan 2023.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
All right, put the bow on the show and the week here on Birds 365. Mac guys. In case you're just tuning in or streamed in a little bit late after we did our first segment and started punching up our guests, John and I went through the schedule, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss in the first segment.
That's a win.
We had a lot of the very same game. Couple we disagreed on, but we agreed on almost everything. We certainly agreed on the first 5 is all W's for the Eagles. John gave the Eagles their first loss against the Jets, but as I'm coming back the week after at home, beating the Dolphins, I think they'll get the better of the Jets up the turnpike, but come back and lose against the Dolphins thereafter. John's got them losing in Seattle. I think they'll win that game, but I had them losing at home to the 49ers. It seems to me like you went heavy on home field advantage for Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah,
you don't have them losing a home game this year, do you?
Let's see. I have them losing at Kansas City. I have them losing at Dallas. I probably went too heavy with the home.
You went. I think you went 8-0 on the home games. Yeah. I actually have them losing a couple of home games, but winning a couple of tough road games like at the Jets and at Seattle. And we will keep these, Andy. I'll keep both mine and John's picks, Andy. We got to wait till September till we start to get some results, but we'll keep an eye on it. My favorite story to ever tell is Chip Kelly's second year as an Eagles head coach. Before the year started, I predicted the Eagles would go 10-6. They had gone 10-6 the year before, and I said, I think they're still at 10-16. And of course, the Eagles went 10-6. I was 100% correct. I hit the number right on the head. Do you know how many games I got right during the season, making individual picks on the games the week of? 5. I was 5-11 predicting the games. Now they went 10-6, which is what my overall prediction was. So I patted myself on the back and took my credit and my props as a genius. But truth be told, I couldn't pick my nose that year with the Eagles. So.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think, but no, you deserve credit because I think the overriding philosophy is, where you end up. And it might be, in my case, they might lose a game at home. They might lose to Buffalo or San Francisco and beat at Dallas or beat the Chiefs. But if you end up in the same spot, you end up in the same spot.
Right.
The overriding factor works out. So that kind of stuff is going to happen. You're going to win some, at least one or two that maybe you didn't think they'd win, but they're probably going to lose one or two.
Who had them losing to the Saints and the
exactly
Commanders last year?
Yeah,
nobody.
Nobody
had them losing at home. 2 home games to the Saints and the Commanders.
And part of it's injuries. I mean, they lost to the Saints because Gardner Minshew was playing quarterback. Let's be honest. And but the Commanders game, I mean, that's the only game Jalen Hurts lost until the Super Bowl. That was just a poor performance by the Eagles, and you're going to get 1 or 2 of them. The good news is they were so good, you only got 1 or 2 of them. They played really poorly in Indianapolis, Jody, but they were able to get over the top.
Well, even worse was Arizona. If Arizona's got a better replacement kicker, they win that game.
Yeah.
If Kyler Murray knows where the sticks are and dives correctly, they win that game right there.
Yep. So those games are going to happen as well. But end of the day, I think it's a really good team and they're going to have a really good record.
And we will be talking about it for these many weeks and months leading up to the actual regular season. Johnny Mac, I'm back on Monday. You in, big guy?
I'm in. Let's do it.
McMullen will be here. McDonald will be here. That means be here Monday for Birds 365 and 2 and 2 days.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.